This week, our sponsor is offering a trade-in deal. They want as many trade-ins as possible. You trade in your sin, and He will give you a brand new life of righteousness through Jesus Christ. Simple math says, good deal. Welcome back to another episode of The Word from our sponsor. My name is David Dietrich. As always, our sponsor is God, offering that trade-in. Take advantage. This week, we're going to be in Mark 12. This is a little bit of a response from a social media video. Or not a social media video. This is a little bit of a response from a social media conversation I had. Somebody telling me that I needed to give to Caesar's what is Caesar's. This is a verse that's talked about a lot. Like there's a lot of political division. There's a lot of people who are very rabidly politically involved right now. There's a lot of people who are very aggressively not involved and don't really want to talk about it. And it's causing division all over the place. And this is a verse that's talked about. And I think that it's important that we just have our positions come from the Word and that we kind of look at the context and then whatnot. So I came back and wanted to read this fresh, and I thought, this is a good thing to talk about. It starts in verse 13. This is Mark 12. It says, "And they sent him to some of the Pharisees and some of the Herodians to trap him in his talk. And they came and said to him, 'Teacher, we know that you are true and do not care about anyone's opinion, for you are not swayed by appearances, but truly teach the way of God. Is it lawful to pay taxes to Caesar or not? Should we pay them or should we not?' But knowing their hypocrisy, he said to them, 'Why put me to the test? Bring me a denarius and let me look at it.' And they brought one, and he said to them, 'Whose likeness and inscription is this?' They said to him, 'Caesar's.' And Jesus said to them, 'Render to Caesar the things that are Caesar's, and to God the things that are God's.' And they marveled at him." So there's a lot of people using this passage to say that we should not be politically involved, or that we shouldn't put our hope in politics, that we shouldn't put our hope in culture change. I read another meme online this week that somebody posted. The church does not need persuasive techniques. The church needs the gospel. There's this often shallow talk about like focusing on this one good thing as though this good thing is in contradiction to everything else. This is saying that Caesar's is Caesar's, so then like we just need to submit to the government. I was like, well, that's not what this passage says. This is very specifically about taxes, but even more specifically about pointing out the hypocrisy of the people that are asking the question. There's this whole aspect in this passage too about the image of God. The coin or the worldly wealth has Caesar's image on it, but people have God's image on it. And the people are God's, the worldly wealth is Caesar's. Like, what is it biblically that God has put under the authority of government, under the authority of Caesar? And what stipulations and requirements and responsibilities are added to that as well? What is it that is God's, and what authority and stipulations and aspects of life belong to God? And this is something that we have to wrestle with. Now, there are other passages, much better passages in my opinion, talking about submitting to authority. Like, we are called to submit to authority. We're called to submit in a way that reflects godly character, that we are not a burden to the authority that is above us. But we also see many biblical examples. One that I just happened to go through this morning as I was teaching my daughter's chapel at her co-op, and we're going through Hebrews 11 and talking about faith. And this passage stuck out to me where Moses said, or Moses' parents' faith was commended because their faith is what stirred them to protect their child in a defiant act against the edicts of Pharaoh. And there are definitely times, Jesus going into the temple and flipping over the tables was not just making a religious statement, but also a political statement, because the temple was the political leadership, not just the religious leadership of the time. So this passage, in my mind, as we come to it and we are to pull things from it, this is used right now often, and I hope that you're not someone that uses it like this, to justify a lack of involvement with things of this world. And I think that that's a real danger. If we are looking at the world and say, okay, this is Caesar's domain, so we don't have any part of that. We just give to Caesar's what Caesar's, and he just runs that. Then God's influence is gone. And I think that's something that, honestly, as a church, as a Western church, that we may need to confess and ask forgiveness of the Lord for, that we've pulled out of so many cultural areas of our society. So anyways, this passage I just thought it was worth taking a look into, worth having some thoughts on and just discussing a little bit. My hope is that we look at this, one, that you guys see that this passage really isn't about submission to authority. There are passages that call us to do that. This is not giving you justification to be apolitical or asocietal, because politics just is part of our society. Politics is not any more evil than entertainment or education or anything else. It's just a pillar of our society, an area that we can have influence, and we should have influence. How that goes about is going to change from person to person. What we don't need to do, and this is somewhat what happened to me this week, is when we see brothers and sisters who are passionate about influencing the world for the glory of Christ, we should not take their passion and assume that it comes from an evil place. Romans 14 actually tells us to do the exact opposite, and that we should assume that their passions are coming from a place of spirit influence and spirit conviction to make an impact in that area. We should be joyful when we see brothers and sisters who have passions to influence the world in areas that we don't, rather than trying to force them to have the same convictions that we do. Hope that you guys enjoyed this. Like, share, subscribe. If you think that this would be encouraging to a specific person, please send it to them. We would love to hear from you. Comment below. Thank you for helping us get our voice out further. And God willing, we make an impact with your help. So God bless you guys, and we'll see you in the next video.